Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. I'm Matt, here with my brother Austin Douglas, and we are live. First time ever for me from the Columbus studio. Man, this is a great setup you guys built
It's
here.
a nice little spot.
Yeah, I was watching the episode. So it was funny because you guys did all the editing and everything on the episode last week, and which opened up so much more time for me. It was so huge. But then I got to basically see the episode with no context, which was extremely exciting for me because I felt like I was I felt like I was one of our viewers, honestly. And it was so cool to just watch the setting open up and see this beautiful layout you guys put together. And I was like, man, how did they do that? And then the conversation was just so rich and so powerful and so authentic. And it really left this excited warmth in my heart just to know that, you know, from back when we started, when it was just us in a basement on a really uncomfortable couch with audio only, no video,
Sinking deep.
Yeah. And just seeing what it's come to now, and now the opportunity we have with this studio and what we can build from here with it. It was just so exciting, but it was mostly exciting to see you guys just be able to take our message on fully and really be able to display that through what you've created in your life now, and this home that you've got, this home that you're building. And it's cool to see that spread and that growth within the platform, and just to have a totally new, very different space for us, but a space that I really like. I like to be able to have that contrast in the different settings and what we offer. So it's exciting to be here, man.
Yeah. I'm happy to get us recording in here, and it's, as we discussed in that last chapter, Riss and I, in that last chapter, in that last episode, it really has. It's been sort of a stark change, but at the same time, it's something that I've been internally looking forward to for quite some time, and so and especially when looking for a place, I took a lot of pride in a lot of action, and I was probably a bit annoying to those that I live with about the place that I wanted to get into. But, you know, in looking for a home, it was, where can I find a place that's going to have a really killer studio? You know, I'm looking at, you know, we only needed 3 bedrooms, but I needed a 4th bedroom place, you know, and this place here was perfect because the space that we're in is technically it's an office space. It's not a bedroom. And so it just worked out perfect to find this layout that's in a really nice neighborhood, really quiet neighborhood, where we can open the windows and not feel upset or concerned or worried. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, and like even this morning I took Lily outside because she's always up early. I'm always up early. We went outside and let her run around a whole bunch, and she was just like running in the middle of the road. I was obviously around her watching her, but there were no cars out moving we didn't see a single car go down the road. And so it was just a space where she could like go out and run and explore. And it was great until she discovered the sewer drain, which she desperately wanted to crawl into. I was not allowing.
You're looking in there like, is there a clown in there?
Yeah, I think our whole generation is a little scarred by those things. You just expect a pair of eyes to be looking back up at you. But yeah, man, it's a cool space to be here, and I'm excited for the immense, powerful conversations that will be captured by these walls going forward. So cool. So today, guys, we're actually doing a little update for you with the new space and a lot of the new things we're diving into with the Impossible Performance, and really refining this next chapter for us, which has been the coaching and community side of what we do. And that's all happening on school.com, which you guys can find those links in the show notes. But what we realized is that it's been quite a while since we've given you guys the behind, or really the update of like who we are, what do we do. Even Austin and I were talking before we jumped on to record here that we haven't talked about our stories since clear like episodes 1 and episodes 3, which were almost 3 years ago now.
A long time ago. Yeah.
And obviously a lot has changed, a lot's happened. The business has matured, we've all grown and discovered new areas of opportunity through which we can live this same mission and vision, because those have not changed since day one. And we just, you know, keep finding new directions, new paths to be able to execute on that. So we wanted to take some time today to have a discussion for you guys, talk about who we are at Impossible Performance and what it is we do for people through the podcast, through our online communities, and through our public speaking and everything else we offer through our mission, supporting our vision. Because one thing that's really come up, we are very radically different from your average community, your average coaching business, your average speakers even. We take a radically different approach. And it's because we focus more on the individual first rather than the outcome we're trying to achieve. We're not the people who are going to say, hey, sign up for my program and you'll lose 30 pounds in 6 months. Hey, sign up for my program and you'll add 10K on top of your monthly revenue in 12 months, whatever it is. Because ultimately those outcomes don't solve anything for you. There are plenty of people out there who are immensely wealthy and still miserable with their lives. There are plenty of people out there who lose a bunch of weight and become somewhat addicted to that process as well, and they never find happiness, comfort, or solace, because no matter how much weight they lose, they still see themselves as that overweight person. They still have that identity embedded into them. And so they, reach that goal that they thought would make them happy, and yet they're still entirely miserable with their lives because they haven't let go of that old identity. And we talked about this in a recent episode. We talked about sacrifice and how you have to sacrifice that old self to welcome in the new self. And really that's one of the cornerstones of how we help people is we focus on you as the individual first. We build you into the version of yourself that is capable and empowered and ready to create that outcome for yourself. It accomplishes a few things. One is once you've built that, what we call impossible version of yourself, you can take that version on to achieve anything. And you can use that method and process to keep refining that version of yourself as you face new goals, new challenges, and new pursuits in life. But secondly, it empowers you to affect that outcome in your own life. And it prepares you for receiving that outcome. Because one thing I've always an idea I've always latched on to is this concept that, it could be with anything, but we latch on to like health and business because those are really common themes that come up in our platform is you're not ready for the money until you've built a person who can keep it, a person who knows how to keep it and manage it. You're not ready for the weight loss until you're a person who knows how to keep it off. And that's really the idea behind that individual first, and then they build the outcome, is that if we're not the person who's ready to accept that outcome, then we're not going to ever find what it is we're ultimately looking for in that outcome. We can't always tie our happiness just to the outcome because there's so many more factors that go into it. And then what ultimately happens is you get that outcome, and if you've not focused on the individual first, if that outcome doesn't bring the happiness and satisfaction you think it's going to, it can actually send you into an even much darker place, even once you've achieved it. So we're going to dive into all this today for you guys. But first wanted to really take a step back and give you guys an idea of how we got here today, kind of what each of our trajectories looked like from a pretty high level perspective. And then we're going to be diving in a little deeper in the future to give you guys some more updates. So Austin, if you want to start with people, where was it, I guess going back maybe even as early as university, like what did your life look like at that point? And what were the things you were struggling with, the challenges you were facing in life? What were the outcomes you were looking for? And then how did you ultimately go through this journey of where we connected and then you had your cancer diagnosis, and what changes had to occur for you to basically be in the situation you're in today, driving forward what you're driving forward within the business?
There are two glaring, I would say, aspects, or two reasons behind that. So in university, I had a lot of drive to produce music and to create music and to share music and its ability to help to help someone and really discover something about themselves, to feel an emotion that they haven't felt in a while, or feel new emotions that they haven't felt before. And that is something that I felt that I was really, really, good at, and I really enjoyed, providing that type of service to people. But two things that were glaring in that portion of my life was, one, I had zero discipline, and two, I wasn't taking life seriously. I wasn't sort of that killer instinct that I'm trying to achieve here in terms of different sacraments, different levels of which you sort of upgrade that sense. I didn't really, I found myself not having that, looking back. I didn't think about this in the moment, obviously. I was very, very much, I lived in the moment back in those days without looking towards the future, without taking life seriously, that life was going to go someplace and that I was going to have to prepare myself and more than just, know how to read a sheet of music. Mm-hmm. Well, there's so much more around that, obviously, that I'm not going to get into, but like, there's so much more about life than, if you're going to be a musician, there's more than just the sheet of music. There's this and there's that, the business aspect and the personal advertisement aspect. And it's just everything around it that I was not prepared to take seriously, nor was I in the position of being disciplined enough to even realize that that's something that I needed to put myself into the habit, a positive habit of forming those skill sets. And so taking life seriously and being disciplined enough to be able to, in being able to even implement that seriousness. So then, I get out of university, things get a lot worse because then I lost music. I lost the opportunities to express myself in that, and I was not, again, without any discipline, you're not going to find yourself really pursuing anything meaningful that's going to be able to last. Sure, I would occasionally sing in my car or sing in the shower or watch a recital there at Western Michigan University up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, but like, what does that do for me? Yeah. No, not a whole lot. And so I had that period of life for about a year and a half, and I certainly enjoyed my time there, but there was nothing about life that I was taking serious, nor was I disciplined and being able to put anything actionable. So then I get to the job that I'm currently working, and again, I'm getting to travel and everything, which was great, but I was not in the position at all. I was not taking life seriously. I then get to meeting you in September or October of 2020 is when we or 2021, one of those 2 years.
I can't remember, to be
honest. It would have been 2020. Apologies.
2020, yeah.
So then we go through 2021. We're the sort of, I travel for 5 weeks for work. I come back for a week. I would just go down to Little Hocking on Federal Road, or Torch Road, technically 5820 North Torch, and I would go and hang out with you, lift with you. I every now and then I go back looking at the training videos that we had, and we were
pretty intense.
Yeah. We were definitely lifting with emotion, not. I can speak for myself at least, of like no discipline. It was just like, oh, I think I'm ready to lift this number, and you're like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, good times. And then with that moment of October 2021, when I get the Moderna vaccine, and I'm looking to get back into music, that was when I started to take life a bit more serious, but I still had no discipline. And then we had a fantastic trip. We visited the University of Salford there in Manchester, England. And that's where I was like, okay, like, whoa, like I have a little bit of like the spark has come back. Yeah. That's incredible. But little did I know what it was actually going to take. And I would have found out, but didn't find out, because then I was diagnosed February 2022 with cancer. And that's where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to instill some discipline. I'm going to have to work on this. Yeah. And I have not taken anything in life up until that point as serious as what I was going to have to take that. And it was forced upon me. And that kind of pressure, that like involuntary adversity that I talk about a lot, with people and like and even there yesterday at the speech, which I enjoyed, by the way.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, dude.
Love that.
A lot of fun.
But talking about that kind of like involuntary adversity that was, you know, kind of thrown upon me and you as well. Like that's just that is so. It's so much to get over, and it is a forcing. It is like a tsunami of life coming at you, saying, "Guess what? You don't have a choice." Well, I guess you do have a choice. You could succumb to the pressure of this. You could succumb to with me not having discipline really instilled in my life up until that point. I could have succumbed to the pressure. I could have just absolutely, you know, what is that, like willowed and pitied?
Yeah,
just stay in this world of pity.
You see people do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were times where like you considered that. I'm sure there were pressures where, you know, you felt like, oh, it'd just be easier if I just like let this happen.
And in talking with a lot of people, not a lot of people, a few people within the cancer center, and I'm speaking from experience. There's nothing malevolent that floats around this. Okay, I'm merely recalling conversations. When I was at the Belpre Cancer Center talking to other cancer patients, there was not a whole lot of positivity there at all. And I'm not saying, how dare they? You should all be positive. But the reason why that I was able to start into that journey was one, I was expecting it to be a 6-month process, and I was going to be done.
Yeah.
But two, it was because those first 2 months, you and Lauren took me in, and you kept me so occupied, so overwhelmingly occupied. Yeah. But you knew that that's what I needed, and I needed that, and it worked so bloody well. Like I needed that, like, you know, cooking meals, prepping meals, lifting, just hanging out with friends in general, you knew that I did not need to sit in my bedroom for hours and days at a time, you know, and I didn't, and that it worked fantastic. But then as soon as I was for the first technical relapse and upgraded to Cleveland, that was a very big change. That's where I realized that I would have to fall upon that discipline that I had started to work on, but it wasn't there. And I was taking it very, very seriously, but just the discipline wasn't there. And that's those two factors that I really was not able to procure and to work on. I wasn't even to like the maintaining stage yet. Like I was still working on that stuff. And so when I was upgraded to Cleveland in the middle of 2022, those 4 months were hell because I didn't surround myself with other people. I was alone. I moved out of your guys' house, so I was alone. I didn't train. I maybe walked around the block, but that stopped very quickly. And I didn't really cook for myself. I just kept cooking like, you know, ground beef and potatoes. Yeah. I didn't season this stuff, you know, for Christ's sake. So it was just like I allowed that boredom. I allowed that lack of motivation, and I allowed that cloud of just directionless, mindless wandering get to me.
Well, because one thing that if you've never been on chemo before, I don't think you can fully appreciate this. One really, I want to say like crucial but terrible thing chemotherapy does is it strips your humanity away from you. And it does it slowly, and it does it malevolently, and it does it before you even realize what's happening. And it's every single day you get a little bit sicker. Every single day you get a little bit less human. And it's the only way to combat that is to fuel your humanity, that piece of it that you can cling on to, that little bit that's left of it. Or else, you know, you see those things pop up and that's how people get to that space of just like showing up to sit in the chair and stare blankly ahead of them because they feel that there's just nothing left in the world for them. Like they're a unit whose only responsibility, whose only job, whose only purpose in life is to show up, sit in that chair, and get pumped with poison. And it's because that's the message we receive. And I'm not telling anybody to not do chemo. That's not at all the message I'm giving. The message I'm saying is you have to fight ferociously to maintain that humanity. And you have to have people in your lives help you fight ferociously to maintain that humanity, because this, I hate this word, this treatment for this disease is so it is so vicious that it will strip that humanistic piece away from you. And that's why that's why we talk about the spiritual domain of performance, because whatever your beliefs in religion or spirituality or whatever it is, there is some spark of life that we have as human creatures. And whether you want to call it consciousness or you want to call it God or whatever it is, I'm not here to fight about that. There is some spark of life, of humanity, of vibrance, of vitality, of passion, of purpose that we have. And when that is stripped away from us, it is worse than death.
Yeah, you got me there with that.
Because you know what it's like.
Staring into, yeah.
You know what it's like to be in that chair and slowly slip into that.
Yeah. Well, and to also see others going through that. Because I, especially in Cleveland, I went from, a 16 or 20 chair cancer center in Belpre to
hundreds,
a lot of chairs, and a few different lobbies, and people that you catch their eyes, because obviously for one cancer patient to another, you can tell who's who, and just catching their eyes. You see this, you see it, and then you feel this sort of like gale force wind of them pleading for something else to be in there, to sort of be in their reality in that moment. You feel this begging of why am I having to go through this right now? Mm-hmm. I just wanted to live life. And I was living life. Life was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden I have to sit in these pastel gray chairs staring at white walls, white everything, especially in Cleveland. Listen, I appreciate the treatment and everything.
That's why I couldn't believe it. The first time I went to Cleveland with you, I was like, this is their cancer center? Yeah,
it's pretty. It's the walls are white, the floors are basically white, everyone's scrubs are white, and like everyone's scrubs are white. I don't think of much other color. Maybe the occasional pants, but that's for the doctors. But guess what? I see 12 nurses per every doctor, so it's just like white scrubs, everything. The only thing that's colorful are their shoes. And I definitely complimented on every single person that was wearing On Clouds and not Sauconys or some other, other pairs of shoes, inferior pairs of shoes.
Not to be named due to legal purposes.
But yeah, and so like that's what I got to look forward to. And I mean, even the paintings were just like, they used like most of the, because they would have not actual paintings, they would have photos of paintings in each of the rooms. Mm-hmm. And it was all like contemporary works and stuff like that, of someone like poorly drawing. Yes, this is a judgment. I promise you, I'm not ashamed of saying this, but like of just like these paintings of like, oh, it's a beautiful painting of a field of daisies, and you're like, where are the daisies? I just see the color yellow smashed here and there. And so just little details like that, because guess what? When you're sitting in a chair for 7 hours, you find where every single thing in the room is. And there was another thing that really helped was the majority of the rooms, and that was another thing that I fought with the one time. But the majority of the rooms, you can see the courtyard between the Taussig Cancer Center and the Cole Eye Center. Beautiful courtyard, lots of grass, lots of trees, maple trees, and obviously very much on purpose that they're there to give us something other than white to look at. I mean, even the cupboards are white. It's just insane. Cleveland, I love you, but really. But then there are a few rooms, treatment rooms, that I think need to be used as supply closets instead, that are windowless, that are just, you have 4 walls of white, and it's not a big room. I mean, it's maybe a little bit bigger than this room here. And you and the person that you have as your caretaker there has to sit in that room. And my treatment was not 2 hours. It was a 7.5 hour day that I had to sit in that room and just hear that machine click, 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 and just pumping this stuff into me. Because that was when I had 4 drugs going into me. And so like it just took so long. Yeah, that was the experience. That's the experience that the cancer patients there at Cleveland have to sort of go through. And I'm not trying to spit fire towards Cleveland. When you have patients going through that kind of stuff, the actual service itself, they're very quick to help. Obviously, I had an anaphylactic reaction to drugs there. I think it was once in Cleveland and once in Belpre. And the nurses, you were there for that one. The room filled up really quick.
Yeah. But here's the thing I'll say about that, though, and one of the other things I said is they have, like, physical doors that close you off.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah, that was...
If you had been there alone, which many patients have to go alone,
yeah.
How long would it have been before they realized you were having an anaphylactic reaction? Because you weren't about to just hop up and turn around and look around and say, oh, there's the blue button for code blue. Like, you weren't about to do that. Like, nobody would expect you to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how long would it have been before somebody just randomly checked you?
That's a really good point.
Found you?
Because even like the nurse help button, like they don't obviously they're not immediately running to that help button, but like that's just more of like a notification of like, hey, something's going on. But like, yeah, no, that's a really good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's just it just shows, and again, like you said, not to attack anybody, but it just shows that like so much of the community of the, I suppose, treatment and management of cancer is just totally out of touch with the experience of the cancer patient. And that's something I think we can do a much better job with, because you have to understand how this stuff strips away your humanity. And once you understand that, I mean, I don't want anybody to have to understand that to the capacity that we do, but at least we have to be able to recognize it. And then you can do small things like don't make every surface, including the nurses, completely white, devoid of all color, which just pulls away at that humanity even further. Like if you've got to go through this treatment regimen that is stripping away your humanity, we need to at least make the environment at such a capacity that
just more
it's helping to maintain that.
Yeah, just inviting, because it's even the hallway, the walkway, the lobby. I mean, the lobby's carpeted with gray.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Just more color. Yeah, it feels like a nightmarish Van Gogh painting in there. Yeah. The very opposite of what he was trying to, perpetuate. And so, Monet's lily pads go just horribly wrong. And so so I get to Cleveland. And that is when, I had to draw back to the original point, that was when discipline was void. And that's where, like I talked in our speech yesterday, where I was struggling. I was not only struggling with the side effects, I was very much struggling with life itself. I was struggling with, it was the 2 to 3 month kind of portion, of where you're in the middle of the tunnel. You can see where you came from, but you can't really see where you're going. And I had contemplated many things of which I don't ever want to contemplate again. And And so when I came out of that, and when I got into the immunotherapeutic portion of it, you're like, hey man, like let's get you fed, because that's when I was able to start visiting you again, and I could tell that you guys were like, oh,
yeah,
fudge,
yeah, we knew you'd been pushed to that edge.
Yeah, that just because that's where all the side effects came in, and that's where all the hair loss, the pale skin was coming through.
The weakness.
And I was small. My arms were even small too, which is very unfortunate. Not now, but and so you got me back to feeding. You're like, hey man, let's get you, like, are you hungry? And I'm like, yes. And so you got me on a really awesome diet, a very big bulking diet, which I needed. I needed that so much. And then you got me back into training, and I had a goal and I had a vision. And that's where the discipline was able to be formed. Because again, I had the seriousness obviously through that, involuntarily forced. Mm-hmm. But the discipline was just like, that's something that you still have to make that choice. Mm-hmm. You still have to go, okay, I have an opportunity here to really form something, and to like a statue of marble that I am able to really make into something extraordinary. But how do I do that? And well, it's because you give yourself goals. You give yourself, you have to become the person who is going to be able to build that outcome. I was not going to be building that outcome at all in that position that I was in when I was alone during the middle of the brentuximab treatment. But as soon as I got out of that, you gave me goals, and I was like, oh, that's how I'm able to do something on the daily to really take my mind off of this. Yeah. Because to a point, like when it comes to the discipline side of things, that's sort of the reason why you have to instill the discipline. Mm-hmm. It's you and I today in these moments. We're not sitting here prepping meals and eating these prepped meals and going out for the walk and going to the gym. Every single day of doing that, of every single activity, is not, sunshine and rainbows for us. There are so many other things that we could. There are other things that we could do that wouldn't be as beneficial, but are still not horrible to do instead of those things. Mm-hmm. But that's where discipline comes in. It's you forcing you to stay on track. And to make sure that you don't go off of course. I mean, you can so easily go off of course. It's very, very simple. It's a very simple task that you can perform, and then you're right back to square one, and you're not going to be able to achieve your goals. But if you have those goals set, you're able to enact upon that discipline. And so coming out of that, getting into 2023, I was doing fairly good, but I would say there was still yet a very large, like I had made a couple of sacraments, a couple of stages, I would say, that I had achieved to where I could move on, a couple of peaks upon the mountain chain that I was able to achieve the climb on. But there was still so much more for me to be able to do, and really with the help of starting this podcast. Mm-hmm. was another big thing of like instilling a little bit of discipline, like something, like we had something that needed to be produced every single week. Mm-hmm. We had to get it done. And were there a lot of times where we're like editing and posting Tuesday morning? Yeah.
There's still some of those times.
Still some, but we still produce. Yeah. No matter.
We make it happen.
Yeah, we make it happen.
Even especially when it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, even more defining than getting it done on the days that it's easy, the weeks that it's easy. And what I think is really powerful about the story you lay out there is, so those the first and then your first relapse, so your first diagnosis and then your first relapse. So those first two battles were kind of back to back. There wasn't really that latency period.
Yeah, I had 2 weeks in Chicago.
Yeah.
And in the middle of a vacation in Chicago of celebrating the 2 really bad months of chemo, then I was going to go on some lesser chemo. I'm in Chicago with a very good friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine, and him and I we're sitting at a sushi shop on Michigan Avenue, across from the park there, and I got a call from you. You're like, hey man, you're gonna get a call from Dr. Colley. And she's going to be sharing some not so good news with you. this is potentially the regiment that you're going to have to go to, the be a cop treatment. And I was like, be a cop, how many letters are there? Because I knew each one of them represented a chemical.
And there's 2 P's.
Yeah. So yeah, that was not a good time. So yeah, that was my experience in between going from harsh chemo to even harsher chemo. That was the time frame, and that was it was difficult, but I will say that I was thankful to be in Chicago when that happened, and to really enjoy that time before everything kind of fell to the...
Yeah, because it's a place you could still have and experience that humanity. You know, it's a different environment outside of where you were normally having to operate for that time. And that's what I think that story shows directly what it is we work to help people do now, in the sense that you had basically the first 2 battles, which were back to back and almost kind of one really long drawn out battle.
Yeah.
And then you had space before you went down to Houston. And then you had an even greater deal of space before you had to go through the bone marrow transplant. But each time, and I've told you this many times, the person you were before that first battle, or even during that first battle, could not have remotely withstood the bone marrow transplant in the way that you did.
No, because Houston was a time of like first relapse with some time there, like you said. And I was out alone in Colorado when I called you and said, hey, I found these, and you're like, well, we need to get you back to check that. And I relapsed. That was very, very difficult. And what it prepped me was, honestly, and it's something that I've talked about before, was just like, knowledge is power. And it's only because of the BMT went as smooth as it did, only because leading up to my relapse in the late of 2023, going into 2024, where I went to Houston, we ultimately went to Houston because we saw what a BMT would do, the autologous BMT, bone marrow transplant, and we were like, is there anything else that I could go through that would not be that? Just because of the potential temporary and potential permanent side effects. And so knowledge is power, and you were paramount, obviously, and like we even went to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society conference in Cleveland in 2023 to look and to like talk to some other, talk to doctors and see like what else is out there. And we found that, I mean, even through 3 separate oncologists saying go with the bone marrow transplant, I still went to Houston. Little did I know that I should have heeded their help. You have a really good point saying like even me in October of 2023 starting for Houston, there's no way that I would have been able to survive that BMT the way that I did this time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, you look at the whole journey, and had you not gone through that CAR T-cell treatment in Houston, had you not taken that chance on the impossible, it didn't completely cure your cancer, but it did give you another opportunity to, it eliminated your cancer at the time as far as we could detect, and it gave you another stepping stone of that phase. It bought you a lot more time to keep building that individual who could go through that bone marrow transplant. Because even after the first battle, even with that space, I won't say you couldn't have done it, and in fact I believe you would have found a way to make it happen based on who you are, but you had not yet built the individual who was prepared for that bone marrow transplant in the same way that you were when you actually went through the bone marrow transplant. And so Houston gave you that like powerful stepping stone. As hard as that journey was as well, it gave you the opportunity to grow even stronger as who you were. And then the time after that, you continued growing, you continued developing, you continued building, to the point that when the bone marrow transplant finally came, wasn't easy. It wasn't something you wanted, and in fact you fought just as hard that time to try to find any way, any other ulterior option or alternative option. And I don't blame you for that, because of how intense and potentially life-altering that therapy can be. But once it was go time and you realized this is the option I have to take on, you seemed more ready for it than I could have possibly imagined anybody being.
Well, it's because of Houston really, like in a boxing match, it really like getting ready for that blow from the BMT, the padding, the padding within the boxer's glove was a heck of a lot more thick, and a lot more padding there for when the BMT came. Like, I was just trying to think of an analogy. Like it would be like getting into a car made out of plastic, all plastic, versus a car made out of steel, and expecting to survive a crash. Houston, that trip there, albeit horrible and alone I was, until about 4 weeks in. And T came in because I was staying in an Airbnb.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I was staying in an Airbnb, and it was like I took the master bedroom of that like 4-bedroom house, and T came in, and she was there for like the last like week and a half that I was there. And that really helped, like the end of the last portion of it, having her there. And super cool person. It was so cool to chill with her. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, go out there, she'd be making breakfast or something. I'd go out there and make breakfast, and I'm like, "What's up, T?" She's like, "What's up, man?" It was such a good time, and that really helped. But yeah, like that meant that the wave, the wave that was coming towards me, I was able to have built for the BMT. I was able to have built a cement wall, reinforced, rather than just a wall of sand. I would have crumbled, and I would have fallen to that force real easily on the BMT if I had done it in 2023. I truly do believe that. Would I have survived? Yes. And maybe a year younger, my body could have recovered a few days before. Whatever, those kind of nuanced details, but Houston prepped me to be a reinforced wall taking on that wave for the BMT. And that's because over that time I had realized, and I was forced yet again for that last relapse of how serious this was. Because the BMT was, you're getting that bone marrow transplant, you're receiving those stem cells, because the amount of chemo that you're about to go through in this 6-day span will kill you.
Yeah.
It will kill you. I will continue to repeat that to try to get people to try to help people understand like how serious that was. Like, BMTs are no joke, especially for those that have to go through the allogeneic. And so like that was just nothing more serious was on my plate, ready for me to have to swallow than that. And having gone through Houston, having gone through 2022, having gone through 2023, and 2024, I think was really a great time of optimization for us, through Impossible Performance, because 2024 was like, okay, this is like, we really need, like, we have to keep the podcast going. We have to keep posting, because it's like, this is a really big thing that we've done here, and we need to keep it going. And then when the BMT, when I relapsed that last time, and the BMT came up, it was just like, I think I have those two aspects ready. I believe I have enough discipline in this moment. I've achieved enough sacraments to be able to go. I will be able to not only survive through that recovery period, that was, little did I know, was going to take months, but like that first month or two after treatment, little did I know how horrible I was going to be feeling, how I felt like an absolute rock in the bottom of the ocean, like just all the pressure that I was under. But the discipline that I had was going to be able to make that to where I wasn't just surviving, but ultimately I would come out of it thriving. But secondly was because I realized, and I was able to digest how serious it was for me to have prepped the discipline, and to prep myself, to have prepped the individual to not only to see not only to have the outcome come to fruition, but to even get to witness it. Because a lot of things could have gone wrong with that BMT, and a lot of things could have happened afterwards that I could have given up on, but I didn't. That's because I had the discipline. I took it serious. Therefore, that the individual that I had built up until that point was going to be able to see that outcome and to be able to experience it.
Yeah. When you'd already beforehand built an immense level of passion and purpose, which are corollary with humanity for your own life. So you had that going, you had this immense amount of humanity going into it. So as it starts to eat away and strip away at that, you're starting out much higher at a much higher level in the
mountain. The tank was so much more full, so that when I exhumed that gas, it wasn't empty halfway through.
Exactly.
there was still some left when I was done coming out of February, and then definitely I treated myself a little bit to with that trip to Scotland. I will say that gave me something to look forward to. Yeah. And I would say that really helped.
Well, that was a really transformative trip for me. You came back, and I think I've talked to you about this as well. You came back from that very transformed, and it felt as if you had taken, through your writing and through your travel there and the vistas and the experiences and everything encapsulated into it. It was like you got this macrocosm of that humanity directly after that, and you took all of that, and it felt like you really focused that into, okay, I'm going to take all of this pain, all of this suffering, all of this hardship, all of this impossible I just endured, and I'm going to focus it and direct it and encapsulate it into creating that individual, helping to manifest that individual of who I want to be going forward. And you developed this intense authoring practice, and you trained really hard while you were out there. You explored, you created, you did so many of these very driving aspects of humanity. And then you came back with a level of production and output that there were a lot of times for the months after that I was like, I got to keep up with Austin right now. Like, he is producing so much at such a high level. Like, I got to keep up with this. I got to keep at this pace. And it was a cool thing to experience. It was really awesome to see you come back in that light, and then to see you carry that forward with everything we've done since then. And really that all reflects for you guys, this is what we do with Impossible Performance. And we know we can do it because we've done it before in ourselves, in your story and in my story. And we found that, like, once you tap into that, you build that individual, like, everything you need as far as the skill sets, the thought patterns, the behavioral patterns, the discipline, everything is accessible to you right now. What we help you do is we help you to tap into that within yourself, to realize it within yourself, and to start writing that story for yourself. And that's a really crucial piece of what we do, because you had to do that same thing. You had to keep strong control over that narrative you were telling yourself throughout that entire journey. And it's not always easy, and we're not always successful with it every single day. But even just like yesterday, we were at the conference, or the expo, the Fit Expo, and there was a guy who came up and was talking to us. He saw me eating my third chicken and rice and broccoli meal of the day out of the Tupperware, and he's like, "Oh, I see, man." He's like, "I see you're just out here suffering like the rest of us." I looked him dead in the eye. I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not a person who allows myself to get offended, but I about took direct offense to that, because I don't want that message even remotely entering my brain." We got to talking more, and this is nothing against this guy. He seems like a great dude. But I do think he's trapped in a spot where he's telling himself, oh, I eat meal, I hate even saying bland meals, because I don't think my meals are bland, but he's like, I eat really healthy food out of a Tupperware container, and I'm suffering because I don't eat pizza and chips and candy and cupcakes and whatever else.
Ice cream, you said.
Ice cream that's in the break room. And I'm like, if that's the story you're telling yourself about the actions you take, it doesn't matter even how disciplined you are with it. You're not going to find fulfillment or satisfaction.
Yeah, there's a lot missing there.
Why would you even do it if that's what you believe about the practice? That is not how I view my nutrition right now. I love my nutrition. It takes an immense amount of discipline, dedication, logging, tracking, every single thing. But we'll have to do a whole separate episode about this in the future. But for the first time in my life, I've been able to construct a narrative around my nutrition right now that makes me feel more motivated and excited to stay on the path I'm on with every single meal I eat. And to be able to pass up on meals when I need to that just are not fitting with what I'm pursuing right now. And I get excited about every opportunity for that. I never once feel like, oh, I'm suffering, or oh, this is hard, or oh, I hate this, because that's not the story I allow myself to tell myself about it. I look at these meals and I say, this is going to get me to this goal. This is building the individual that I am becoming and that I have recently stepped into since closing that chapter on the powerlifting phase, which is something I wrote about in our blog post recently. But I get excited about those meals. In the words of Dana White, it's like, I love this shit. Like, I love making the chicken and the rice, the beef and sweet potato, whatever it is. I love logging each thing and seeing how it lines up perfectly every single day, and how when I have absolute precision and perfection with that, it translates to the scale and the other goals I have around my nutrition right now. Like, it's exciting to me. I don't ever feel like I'm suffering. I'm not allowing myself to believe that story. But we can allow ourselves to believe that story. He could have latched onto that story, and he's latched onto that story and said, this is suffering. I'm doing this, and I'm making myself doing this, and I'm suffering. And I could sense the bitterness and just beaten down and brokenness in his voice around it. Mm. And so that's an example of somebody who's even got the discipline, got the practice, got the things. He's just writing the wrong story for himself about it. And that's what we talk about. You've got to build that individual first, because he's got the outcome. He's got the systems. He's got all those things, but he's not going to be truly happy and truly fulfilled with that practice until he starts working on who he is, building that individual, changing that story. And then he can take all these things he's doing and create an impossible version of himself. Somebody who influences and affects and builds others up in ways that he probably could never imagine for himself right now. And again, we only know that because we've been in those same places. I've been in places where I told myself very destructive stories, and I've had to overcome them and really reclaim that narrative for my life. But so much of that happens in the words and the actions that we allow ourselves to speak and to hear and to live out every day. And if we don't take control of those first, if we don't take control of that individual we're living as, the outcome's not going to change anything for us.
Yeah, because lastly, I on that point is just the internal dialogue that you are having should really, the complexity and the depth of which you are able to live your life based upon that inner dialogue should be a very profound thing for you to witness and to realize and to be able to absorb, because we both of us have been in those realms of living under fear. I know that when you were in university, the alcoholism was something that kind of helped you deal with the nightmares.
It was escape.
Like, you were like, I don't want to sleep right now. And I've been through that as well with, because whenever I would try to not smoke for, a few days or a week or something like that, like the nightmares were just like, it was just nonstop every single night. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to, then I need to be smoking until I literally pass out. Then I won't dream. To the inner dialogue that you can have that is extremely existentialist and nihilistic. And not that those are necessarily a bad thing, but when you let a rabid dog and you give him a foot and another foot and another foot of that leash, eventually you're giving him enough motivation to actually be let loose, and he will rip that chain. And it will be set loose, and it will be almost impossible to ring that back in. And so that's something that I implore you to carefully read through and digest in a time of which you have a bit more solidarity within your foundation itself. And with those sort of like cascades of potential malevolence that would sprout up inside of you, you would kind of hope that you would hope, and there's a bit of a like an observationist kind of perspective of like, well, why would our brain allow that to happen? Like, why would my brain tell me that I'm just a heaping pile of garbage and that I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that? What is the source of that? I'm not going to get into that, but like that's it's there. It exists. If you're going to continuously fail, that's all it knows, and so that's all it's going to want you to do. If you continuously tell yourself that the meals that you were prepping, the training that you were doing, is merely you engaging in suffering, and that's what you need to be doing this entire time, that you need to be suffering like this, that is such a nihilistic viewpoint that's not going to. You are allowing the roots of your tree of life to slowly rot from the inside out, that will eventually leach up into the body, into the branches, and to the leaves of that tree, to where you're going to bear little to no fruit at the end of it, if you allow that process to achieve its maximum. And
then it's going to be toxic to any who do.
Yeah, and then anybody who shares in the fruit of which you bear are going to carry that same burden. And I'm not going to apologize in saying this, and that tells me that you are an extremely toxic person, and you better change it. Otherwise, you really need to have a really deep think with yourself, find somebody to talk to, and get that stuff turned around ASAP. Because if you are a toxic, negative individual going through this life, you really need to think about what you're doing. Yeah. You really need to think about it. You really need to think of, how can I turn myself around to not only produce an outcome, but to produce a self that can produce that outcome that is positive for others. If you're not a positive force on this earth, what are you doing? Yeah. You get that stuff turned around. Don't. There's no excuse to have that. And we have felt that. You and I have both felt that, to where we were net consumers. We were net negative, and that is just not. That's not a force for good. Yeah. That's not. And I think if you have any sense of, or if you have the ability to absorb information, I think you've seen over the past day, week, months, years, that there are a lot of negative things going on in this world right now. And if you think that being negative in your world is going to make, is a good impact on the world around you, you have a very unfortunate view on life, and get that turned around.
Yeah. Yeah, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to every single human in your life, because you are impacting, you are building momentum for yourself every single day with every single action you take, and for everyone who is touched by your life. And you are either pushing that in a positive or negative direction. And granted, we're not going to be positive 100% of the time. We're not perfect specimens.
No, but that's the whole point of the process itself.
Exactly. You push
that. The whole reason that we work towards it.
Yeah, you push that net positive higher and higher and higher over time, and you refine more and more and more to where you can drive and build better and better systems that do more and more and more good. Because as you said, there is so much negative happening right now. And if we have that potential to be a good, positive, impactful force on this planet, on those around us, and in everything we do in life, that is our responsibility.
Overwhelming negativity can only be forced back into its little, insignificant, breakable shell by overwhelming positivity.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. I love the tree analogy you brought up, because it's perfect. It starts in the roots, it rots in the roots first, and the foundations of who you are and where you've cemented yourself in this world. And it spreads up through the trunk and into the branches, and then that piece of particularly how, and if you bear any fruit at all, it's only going to poison those who consume those.
It's poisonous.
It lays it out really in a really powerful way. So guys, this is at the heart of what we do with Impossible Performance. And we're going to put out more content, more messaging to really dial this in for you guys, because we found it to be a really crucial next step for us to really figure out how to best convey this message in a way that is able to be received, so that we can help anyone who hears it to understand this is what we know we're called to do, and this is what we know you're called to do in your own life. We're not going to say that everybody has to be a professional bodybuilder or a powerful speaker, or we're not going to tell you have to chase one specific pursuit in life, but we know that this message we're giving you here, this value we're giving you, can be displayed in any walk of life. You can build an impossible version of yourself, somebody who could not or should not have otherwise existed without the challenge you faced in life. And I know we have all faced challenge. Yeah, you may not have had cancer. You may not have battled cancer 4 times. You may not have lost your leg to cancer. You may not have even gone through addiction. But it doesn't matter. Pain is relative. Hardship is relative. Challenge is relative. I know that every single person listening today has had a moment in their lives where they have felt broken and beaten by something. And the way that you step forward in that today is by taking control of that narrative, that story you tell yourself about yourself in your own life, building the individual, and then using that individual to create the outcome of your dreams. And the reason that this process matters more than the outcome, more than any coaching service is just going to give you or promise you an outcome that you may never achieve, is because once you've built that individual, you will be in a space where you are ready for that outcome. So when you click on these people's Instagram profiles, and you see that little message at the top of, I help you lose 30 pounds in 6 months, I want to know how many of those people actually that sign up for those services actually lose that 30 pounds in 6 months. Because a lot of times those are promises on outcomes, as long as you follow my process exactly perfectly, which is fine and great and all good, and I'm sure it works for a lot of people. But how many people, because they see that and they think, oh, this is definitely going to happen, I'm going to be able to follow all this, do they sign up, and then 2 or 3 months later, they're dropping out having never lost the weight because they were not an individual who was ready to commit to that process. That process may work fine, but if you're not ready for it yet, if you don't have that discipline, if you don't have that proper narrative, if you haven't built yourself up to be prepared for that process, it's not going to happen. And then you're going to step out of it feeling more broken, more beaten down, more insecure with yourself, and more ready to just give into that abyss of that weight you feel like you can never lose. And that's an example we're using right now, but it can apply to any scenario in life. So you are called to be so much more. A guy we reference all the time, his books are sitting right behind Austin right now. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson once said, and I'm not even going to try to paraphrase it my own idea because it will never be said better than he said it. We are called to be visionary constructors of our own reality. Terrible as that is to apprehend. There is so much more out there for us in life. There is so much more we are capable of. Our potential lies in levels that seem impossible, inaccessible, beyond our wildest of dreams. And humanity exists in building passion around achieving that potential. It's why our logo is a heart on fire. It's that passion that sparks the roaring fire that is our humanity. And for everything Austin and I have lost and sacrificed and suffered through in life, the one thing we have been able to maintain, to hang on to, and then to build into a roaring fire that blazes more than nearly anybody else we meet, is that humanity. Because in our darkest moments, it's the thing that was very nearly stripped from us. It's the thing we needed most, and the thing we can help give now to any person who we get the opportunity to work with. And so if you guys are sitting here listening to this feeling feeling that pull of I'm built for more, I'm made for more. I know that there's something I'm supposed to be doing with this life. There's one thing you can do right now that will get you on that path. It's easy, it's free, and it will make you better for it. There's a top link in the show description for our new online free community that we offer. We have 2 communities now through school.com. One is an online free community, a group of individuals all coming together to learn more about our process and their own potential, and to share in that struggle that is life and use it to help build that humanity within them. Just jump on and join that group. And everything else will unfold from there. If you guys are feeling particularly motivated, like you want to just start on this process right now toward changing your life, toward building that individual, the second link is for our private one-on-one coaching community. You get access to courses totally free with your subscription. Depending on the level you jump in at, you get one-on-one coaching access to me, Austin, and or Riss, based on who it is you need to work with, who it is you want to work with, and who can help you the very most. You get access to weekly group calls where people who are going through this process in real time right now can discuss all of the challenges, different topics that help us get to that, the building of that individual in real time. And we're starting to add on regular webinars now. So there's so much encapsulated within this, but this is the driver. This is the space where that global culture of strength is born. You've heard us say this since day one when we close these episodes. Our vision for impossible performance. And this is where it's manifesting. And it is already worldwide. So, Austin, brother, I appreciate you having this conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
It was intense, but it was good.
Oh, yeah.
We needed to say it, and I think everybody needed to hear it.
Because they can... Every single one of you who are watching or listening to this has that. You have that potential. I didn't think that I had that potential 4 years ago, but I didn't really have a choice. So
yeah. Sometimes you get pushed into the
you get pushed into the fire, into the crucible, involuntarily. But I wouldn't wish it any other way, honestly, because that made me tighten up my bootstraps. Mm-hmm. So,
yep. And now you've created the person and the beautiful life and the beautiful home that you have now.
Right. I'm here now, thankful because of that opportunity. Yeah. So I think others could experience that without having to be thrown into the crucible involuntarily. Because I think voluntarily doing it, honestly, would kind of it would have this sort of different sense and different value to the outcome itself. I believe, if it's voluntary, because then there's a bit more, I think, sense of accomplishment that could come out of it when you volunteer yourself to that temporary suffering for an ultimate experience of your highest potential. I mean, I think that would be an incredible feeling to have. And it was different for us, but the process is still the same.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why we get so fired up and intense and passionate about this, because we know that this exists for everyone. Mm-hmm. And we know
it's accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we know how it has profoundly changed our own lives. And we know that it can have that same effect, if not more, on others. Because look how broken our bodies are. Mm-hmm. And where they have been, what they have been through. And yet what we have been able to attain and achieve despite that. There are levels to this human experience that we don't talk about in day-to-day life, in society. We choose to ignore them, and any mention of anything beyond what we choose to wallow in is regarded as ridiculousness. But there are levels to this experience of humanity. When you start to tap in to those higher levels, you see yourself, you see those around you, you see the entire world and all of existence in a totally new light. And it will be more of a driving, motivating, fulfilling satisfying pursuit than anything you've ever undertaken before. So thank you guys for listening. You know what to do. If you got something out of this episode today, click that link, copy it, paste it into a text message, social media post, however you want to share it. Share it with as many people as you know whom you believe it would help, because this is how we change the world. If you go back to January, you're going to hear us say that 2026 is the year we start our process of changing the world. And when we said those words, we had no idea how it was going to happen. And every day that we live of this year, I see it happen more and more. And it's because we built the individuals who are ready for it. So join us in this movement. Join us as part of this global culture of strength that is fostering a spirit of growth, and is living in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, be impossible.